Welcome everybody. This is the F4S Edcast for London on International Women's Day. My name is Sherry Coutu and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you today. We have a real treat and a panoply of career paths to explore today. I am joined by Kathryn and Sophie and Trudy, and we're going to talk to you about the organizations that we have started and what we thought we were doing or might be doing when we were 11 or 12. So very, very excited to be kicking off International Women's Day with that. At Founders for Schools, we want every teacher and every student to know which people, the actual people who are running the businesses around us, and our goal is to give you some insights into, why they're doing what they're doing, and maybe what they thought when they were a lot younger. And this means that many more people can see what they might someday become. So without that, I'm going to start with Kathryn. And Kathryn, if you could tell your sort of career story from again, sort of from when you were a wee lass to now. Please don't take more than sort of 3 or 4 minutes because we've got so many people on. Just sort of give us some insights from 11 to now.
Well, hello everybody, and lovely to see at least some of you. So where do I start? I was the quiet one in the class. I suspect when if I go back to 11 years old, I liked maths, I liked science, I liked all the other subjects as well, actually. But maths when I was young was the thing that you kept quiet about. It didn't make you cool. And but I really enjoyed it. I found it, I was one of the people who's lucky enough to find it easy. I liked the logic of it. I liked the fact that I could put some loud music on while I was doing my homework. And when you write an essay, you can't always do that. I also liked the fact that there was always an answer. There was an 100% right answer in an English essay. I could never get 100%. Maybe that was just my way of approaching things. So, but I went to the school at the end of the road, and I was unusual. And so when I left to go to university, I decided to try lots of different things, and I thought I would find all the solutions to life in philosophy. Did that for a year, and that did not suit me. But maths did, and so I went to Edinburgh University and studied economics and maths. I liked problem solving, I guess, is probably the thing that attracted me to it. I liked things that were complicated and trying to explain them in a simple way. I ended up doing my dissertation on chaos theory, so that probably should have led me to understand exactly what was going to happen in the future. Taking things that are really hard to explain, really chaotic, where you can't see a pattern in it, and trying to find a pattern in it, basically. I also wanted to make some money, if I'm being honest. So I thought finance would be perfect for me and wonderful and glamorous. I have to admit, it isn't all as glamorous as it looks like on the outside. There's a lot of hard work. But what I did find in doing that is I found a lot of like-minded people. There were lots of really, really smart people who had also been probably slightly the outcasts at school as well. And also people who had different ways of thinking. It's probably really only in the last few years, looking back, that I've noticed quite how many of my friends I made in finance, and especially female friends I made in finance, all had some kind of slight dyslexia, which I have, possibly some ADHD and some other conditions. People that think differently and do things differently actually fit in really well in the industry I'm in. And we all quite a lot of us seem to have ended up there. So what am I doing? I worked in investment banking, which is where you study all the investment markets. I moved on to investment management, where you invest money for different people. So, parents' pensions, buying shares, buying bonds, buying in different investment products. And after many years of doing that, I am now working for 4 different companies at the moment on the board, which means we're in charge of managing all the assets and running the business. So I'm on the board of a fintech that does behavioral finance. It tries to make everybody who's investing behave better and do their job better. wealth manager. I'm at my old university pension scheme, helping out with that. So helping with that too, and also in the pension space. So I have branched out to solving even more problems in lots of different areas than I ever thought possible. There's more, but I'll stop there.
That's super helpful. Thank you, Kathryn. So I'm going to turn for a moment over to Sophie, who is a consultant. You played rugby and studied aeronautical engineering for your first degree at Bath. And then you have 2 other degrees, if I'm right, from the University of Manchester.
That's right, yeah.
And Cranfield. And you own your own business, which is a consulting business. So talk to us a little bit about that. But did you think you'd be doing all of that when you were 12? Where do we start there?
No. So when I was 12, I only wanted to be one thing. When I was 12, all I wanted to be was a pilot. In fact, that's all I ever wanted to do was fly aeroplanes. I hated maths. Maths was just a necessary evil to be able to do physics. And I loved physics. Physics was like the best thing ever. I really didn't like maths. But the only way I could do A-level physics was to do A-level maths. And that is why I did maths. I had no intention of ever doing maths. The key was I should have realised I was getting an A at maths and a U at physics. And that kind of tells you about how good I was at physics and how good I was at maths. But I was adamant that I was going to do aeronautical engineering. So I stopped revising maths, got a B in maths, but got a C in physics and went to Bath Uni. You can't get to Bath engineering on a B and 2 Cs anymore. I hasten to write you now need high degrees. So I did aeronautical engineering. Best thing ever. Absolutely loved it. Arrived and they said, oh, wouldn't you like to be 21 and live in Paris? I said, yeah, that sounds really good. How do I do that? Because I grew up in Barnsley and, you know, not many kids went to uni where I came from. And so my degree became engineering with French. So that's a full engineering degree. It's just half the lectures were in French. I didn't have French A level. So I just went and sat in lectures in a language I didn't really speak. But that meant I had a year in France working at Colgate-Palmolive. And I graduated and I decided to do a master's in fluid mechanics. And I did play for the rugby team. I've got my half blue. I was a blindside flank and loved it, played union. And that was a bit odd because I grew up in the north and we only played league. What's this stuff down south where, you know, everybody's different sizes? Went to Manchester, did an MSc in fluid mechanics because I loved fluids. I mean, I just loved fluids. I thought it was awesome. And decided that I was going to be a gas turbier because I'm short-sighted, wasn't going to be a pilot, and got a job as an aeronautical engineer with the MOD. I flew around the world with the Nimrods. I wasn't in the RAF. I was a trials engineer, and I'm really good at hide and seek, and I got my dream job. I was Kelly McGillis in Top Gun, but for really large multi-craft aircraft. We flew around the world. We did trials. It was the stuff I grew up wanting to do. And whilst I was flying around the world, having the time of my life, by the way, I got really interested in why we would miss information. And you need to go back 20 years, and information overload wasn't a thing, and people hadn't really heard of Bayesian stats. And I said, I don't understand why we are picking things up. I don't understand why we're missing information. And I did a part-time PhD over 8 years in a thing called Bayesian networks, which nobody really cared about. And I was at Cranfield to do that. And I did how you fuse information and what makes your mental model stop picking stuff up. Anyway, that, it turns out, is statistics. And I didn't think anything was ever going to be better than gas turbine engines. Turns out statistics matches it. So my PhD ended up being in statistics, and I slowly moved as, I guess, the new field of... I spent a long time in what I would say was statistical engineering and meeting where those two things come together, statistics and maths. But I got rid of them, and it wasn't personal. They just got rid of a lot of people, and I was one of them. So 14 years ago, I set Bays Consulting, spot the name, no E in mine, set my company up, and we've slowly grown. Slowly, I say that. It was just me for a couple of years, well, a few years. In the last 3 years, we went from 2 to 12. We do consulting, but we have a couple of products that we now sell. So we've got a really nifty maths model. And I say maths, it's not machine learning, which predicts cold, mold and damp in houses at address level without setting foot in, to help people, councils, understand where they should put money in to make houses warm, watertight. And we have a really cool model that we work with events managers and for crowd safety. We show how crowds move under threats and disturbances. So what happens if somebody trips up in a really dense crowd? Where do you see the crush points in a crowd? That's not AI. It's not the cutting edge AI, ML, DevOps. It's really good maths and stats. That's what we do.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So I'd love to invite Trudy Mathuni on to say a few words. Now, Trudy is at the University of East London, and she is doing an MSc in data science, and would love to hear, is that what you always thought you would be doing? And if not, sort of just talk a little bit about your pathway, which is a little bit earlier than some of the others. But that's really important for our audience of 11 to 16-year-olds who, again, it just provides scaffolding to help think through your whole career. So love to turn it over to you now, Trudy.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, so much for inviting me. As you said, my name is Trudy Mudani. I grew up in Nairobi, Kenya, and I am in the University of East London pursuing my master's degree. I have been here for 6 months, and I'd say just like Shani, at 11 years, I wanted to be a creative. I never once thought that I'd be into IT or anything like that. So being the firstborn of my family, my mom took me through everything, from music to fine arts to just anything you can imagine creative. And I did that for a couple of years, and it wasn't until when I joined university where I pursued my undergrad into business and IT. And that's when I discovered that I really didn't like coding at all, but I loved math. To be honest, I really loved math. Math was the one thing that kept me going even when I was at that 11 years of age. I think math was the only thing that I used to get 90 and above in. Everything else was like, not too bad, but also not as great as math. And when I got my first job as a data analyst, that's when I discovered my passion for data, because I was able to bring now math and my creativity together. And I mean, that's my joy at the moment. And aside from that, I was also able to run a bakery when I was back home. I ran my home bakery. And of course, I had to use math to be able to, bring in my calculations in as much as I had my creativity as well. Yeah, I mean, that's as far as I can say how math has brought me.
Well, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love the curiosity that is amongst you lot of women is quite high, and I lost track of how many degrees you had between you, and how many different places you've been from. What I loved is that none of you expected to be doing what you're doing. And I think that's really important for all of us to think about today, as the world is so uncertain. Having said that, I'm sure the first thing that most of us will ask someone who's in their early teens is, what do you think you might be doing later on in life? So again, knowing that it doesn't really matter, because you may change quite a few times, and you're likely to change quite a few times as you discover what you're good at, and you discover what you truly love. I think, Kathryn, I liked you saying that you enjoyed the industry that you were a part of, which was financial services, because you found a lot of other people like you, and that maybe in school you hadn't found that many people like you. And I think that's certainly resonates with me, having sort of feeling quite same, having grown up in a lumber town in Canada. And then Sophie, pilot. Again, just all you wanted to do was be a pilot, and maybe you're helping other companies pilot themselves at the moment. I just wanted to just stop for a second and think, is it? I mean, you've gone in. You all have fascinating backgrounds. Does maths help you solve problems? Does it help you see things that you haven't seen? Does it help you navigate? Is it just maths, or is it maths and your curiosity, or maths and your communications? Or or maybe even not math. So love to hear what your secret power is, or your superpower is now, and what you think you will depend on most in the next 5 to 10 years as you continue to reconfigure yourselves into new things, which again, which you haven't yet done. And I'll probably start in the same order. So Kathryn, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
No, that's fine. Oh, if only I knew the answer to that. I think that the thing that maths gave me in terms of the tools it equipped me with is about not being afraid to try and understand something complicated and try and make sense of it. Because for me, that's what maths and that's what equations try to do. Is to take something, and as Sophie was saying earlier, and take something and try and describe it in a way that you can understand, to sort of box it in, contain it, and make sense of it. Everything in finance is not as pure as the maths, because I can guarantee you that every system I have that gives me any number, most of them are going to be a bit wrong. And so in finance, you have to be prepared to accept that you're going to make mistakes, and that the things you think are going to happen aren't going to happen, but then that's very much like life anyway. So it's about probability and risk and just understanding and framing things. And that, I think, has been the part of maths that's been most useful. In finance as well, you do end up using maths every single day, I have to say. But you can specialize in so many different areas that you can really zone in on the bit you find interesting. If you're really not into stats, you never have to do it again. That's fine.
Thank you. Sophie?
So I never thought I'd be a statistician, and I am a Bayesian statistician. I'm going to say that now. I would say two things. The thing that connects all mathematicians is a love of puzzles. We just love solving puzzles. It doesn't matter if you're applied maths, pure maths. It's this innate love of solving puzzles, and this desire to just pick at something, and then you keep picking, and you kind of just keep going. So I think that's gonna, you can call it curiosity, or you can call it tenacity. It's been called other things amongst me, but that's the thing that just keeps you going, and it keeps you learning, and you keep getting new things. I don't get to code anymore. My tech team lock me out of our secure coding areas because I might have a good idea and they're all better coders than me, and nobody wants the boss having a good idea anymore when they're better than me at that. So I think the thing that I've found that keeps me going is just that excitement of what's the next thing. What's the new shiny thing? What am I reading about that people, nobody talked about ChatGPT 2 years ago. Now we're all talking about how we tweak the hyperparameters on large language models to make them more naturalistic. That's awesome. It's stats, it's maths. So I think it's that curiosity and that puzzle solving. And like Kathryn was saying, uncertainty. The answer's never one number. It's a range. Let's get comfortable with uncertainty. And I am wrong 99% of the time. There is no answer I can work backwards from. It's just hoping you're right more than you're wrong. But yeah, uncertainty as well, to get comfortable with that.
Okay, so we go from chaos theory to uncertainty. So that is terrific. Miriam, do you want to ask a final question? You're the regional coordinator for our OakNorth program. And I feel like I've just cold called you, but are you all right? Do you have a question you'd like to ask in the next couple of minutes?
I'd like to contribute one thing and then go on asking a question. So for me, like you have exercises for body. I think math is a great exercise for mind. And this is something I very often do. So when I feel lost, when I feel that I'm not getting onto a problem, I just open a GRE book and start solving questions. And it actually helps a lot. So just to understand that, how in your everyday life do you encounter math? Say, for example, I love to count the steps that I take, the number of books that I'm holding. So I like to count everything that comes my way. How would you suggest that? And maybe if you think when you were an 11-year-old, how you did that? And
we've got time for one-word answers, I'm afraid, because we have to wind up. And I can see, again, teachers have their all changing classes at the moment. So maybe 2-word answers.
Today, I have been trying to build a new investment portfolio. So I've been looking at all the different things that I might put together into the portfolio and working out what the mix would be, a bit like coming up with a new recipe.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sophie?
So to answer every day, it hasn't changed since I was 11. I count my swim strokes down the length, and then I count my turns, and I count how long it's taking me to hit my mile. I'm slower than I was now, but everyday maths, it is my stroke rate in the pool. It has been that my whole life. And my kids now do the same because they're competitive swimmers.
Huh, interesting. I'm also a swimmer. We can talk about that some other time.
What about later? Yeah.
Later. Trudy, how did you use maths today? And then we will finish.
For me, it was creating my steps when I'm headed to the gym, and also calculating my time that it takes me to get to school for work.
Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you. So thank you all for joining me on International Women's Day. Yay! What you show is that really there's quite a few things you can be if you can see it and think it through. And there's many things you can be if you haven't even heard of it yet, particularly if you view maths as your friend. So if you're one of the teachers, thank you for bringing your students here to the masterclass. Masterclasses are different from our normal self-serve. There's two ways that we work at Founders for Schools. Sometimes we curate masterclasses such as this. Most of the time, teachers will come to the website and they'll put in a request for somebody who they will find because they want to tell a story and they want to help unlock that. So whatever way works for you, we're delighted to help you see, help you bring subjects to life. And thank you. And I know that Kathryn, Trudy, and Sophie, you enjoy talking to young people just as much. You may think it's a one way, but we benefit enormously from being in the classroom and speaking to your students as well. So don't hold back. Look forward to seeing you in the future. And thank you very, very much. Take care.